All right, today we're going to be talking about lighting and about shooting your project. We spoke a while ago about the importance of lighting being an integral part of cinematography and how it's one of those few areas of filmmaking that has infinite arrangement setups. You can use lighting designs in a variety of ways. Remember, guys, that what we see as light and color have an effect in altering the mood and the overall impact of what you're showing. There's a very basic light design that I shared with you a while ago that you could use if you want to in this project. But what you need to do is make sure that you're paying attention to lighting. Whatever light design you want to use, whatever light scheme you want to use, whatever light source you're using, you need to give special consideration to lighting so your image will look like professional. Remember that sometimes it's procedures that are important, even more important than having some tools. People think that because they have tools, they can do a great job. And sometimes people that use the correct techniques, even if they don't have the proper tools, can do a better job. So it's important that you keep these things in mind. Okay, a very basic light design that I shared with you a few months ago was the 3-point light design, okay? And this is one that uses 3 lights. The first one is called the key light. And you can see an example of what the key light does in this photograph. A key light is usually the primary light of the scene. It's the most strong and direct light source in the entire scene. And here you have an example of how it is illuminating the face of this person. You'll notice that the problem that this causes is that in the side of the face that is opposite to the key light, it creates heavy shadows. And that is something that you can keep if you're doing a horror thing. But if you don't want to do a horror thing, you're not doing a horror thing, then you have to fill this area with light. So you're going to use a fill light. And you can see what the fill light is doing here. See how we got rid of the shadow by using another light at the opposite side of the key light. Not as powerful as the key light, it's not supposed to be as strong, but it gets rid of a little bit of shadow. Sometimes we want to leave a little bit of shadow because it creates dimensionality. It will keep the face from looking like flat, like two-dimensional. So that's why this light is not so as strong as the one at this side. And in order to separate the subject from the background, we use a backlight, also known as a rim light, also known as a kicker. And this photograph, you can see what the backlight is doing. It is illuminating the subject from the back. And as you can see, it creates an outline that separates our subject from the background. So if you use these 3 lights, you will be using the 3-point light design, which is probably the most commonly used, and it's a very basic, very standard light design. But there are other light designs. For example, you can use something called the side light. And this is a single light that comes from the side parallel to the actor. In this scene, you can see that it's a very strong light. It's illuminating one side of the subject. And it creates a very dramatic mood. Okay, this is usually what is called in Italian chiaroscuro, also known as film noir. This looks great in black and white images. In color, it's not that great. So if you're doing something in black and white, which you can do if you want to, you might be able to use this type of lighting to create dramatic effects. Another type of lighting would be the practical light. You can use a practical lights, and a practical light is an actual working light within the scene itself. This one is probably the type of lighting that you can use the most because you have lamps in your house, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can use the lamps or the lights in your house as light sources. You can use a house lamp, you can use a flashlight, the light that comes from the TV, the light that comes from candles. Any of those are practical lights. And movies also use them, and it creates like a more natural environment. So you can use practical lights. They look great in documentaries. Remember that common practice for practical lighting is very important. Something else that you might need to do with light is to bounce light. Remember that bounce light is light that has been reflected. Usually use something called a reflector. I'm not sure that you have a reflector in your house, like the one that you see this guy holding here. However, there are substitute for reflectors if you don't have a reflector in your house. You can use a foam board. You can use also a piece of white cardboard or cardstock to reflect. Some people even use a white sheet, una sábana. You can stretch it and you can use it to bounce light also. And you can use in this image, because you need this image. Where is that woman? Where is this? What do you see behind her?
It's like
A
at
beach,
the
no?
beach.
She's in
At
a
the beach.
beach, right? And you would assume, well, there's a lot of light in a beach. Yeah, but if you have ever taken pictures in the beach or out there under the sun, depending on its position and where the subject is facing, it can create a lot of shadows. So even if you're out there under the sun, especially if you're out there under the sun, you might need a reflector to have the light bounce off of it, and you can direct the light into the area where you want to eliminate the shadow. Have you ever seen how this is done, guys? I want to remind you also that we spoke about something called soft light. And when we talk about soft light, it's a term that describes the size of the light source and what it does to shadow more than the placement itself. Remember that soft lights make shadows that are less defined, and it creates like a dream-like ambiance. So depending on what you want to do with your project, if you want it to have a dream-like ambiance, then you should go for soft lights. Now, you want to do something a little bit creepier, you can go with hard light. You can see an example of hard light in the bottom. And what's the difference between using soft light and hard light? That hard light creates shadows that are much more defined and sharper and harsher. So if you want to use that, then you are welcome to use that. Another type of light that you can use is high key, which is a style of lighting that is very bright and shadowless. When you use high key, there's basically like no shadow. You get rid of all shadows. Here you have an example of how it was used in Harry Potter, right? It is shadowless and it looks a little bit overexposed. This looks a little bit like soft light. Low key is when you have more darkness than light. And it can be very dramatic, as you can see here in this photo, right? You basically, what you see is a little bit of the side of the face of this person and the outline of his head with a light that's been placed out behind him. That's the rim light that is behind him. So that's another technique that you could also use. When we talk about available sunlight, we're talking about sunlight that already exists at the location. This is probably going to be the type of lighting that you're going to be using the most. You know that you have light that is in a location. If you go to a beach or if you go to a city, it doesn't matter. There's going to be some type of available light. If you're using the sun as your light source, be careful to plan for the weather and sun placement. Remember that early morning and late evening are great moments for soft golden lighting. You have that nice color in the sky and that very nice look if you're looking for that particular look. If you're using, if you're shooting more at noon, remember the light is going to be harsher, it's going to be very different. So keep in mind at what time of the day you're going to be shooting. Now, when shooting, it's important to remember something, right? Some of you have good cameras, some of you have cameras that are not that good. But at the end of the day, it's what you do with the camera, not the camera itself that matters. As I've told you many times, you can give anyone a brush. That's not going to turn them into Leonardo da Vinci, right? I have seen videos where we have photographers that are professional with cameras that are not very good and amateurs with fantastic cameras. And guess who ends up with the best pictures? The amateur with the good camera or the professional with the bad camera?
The professional with the
The
bad camera.
professional with the back
Believe it
camera.
or not, believe it or not. So it's what you know, right? It's the skills that you have that can make your
Es la
footage look
experiencia.
fantastic. You should be thinking about these 7 things when you're shooting. Remember that good lighting is critical. That proper lighting has an impact on phone cameras because of their small sensors and lenses. Also remember to stay steady. If you don't want your video footage to look distorted or blurred, you need to keep steady. Keep your hands steady or use a stabilizer. Number 3,
Yo tengo
audio
eso.
matters as much as video. Remember that we said that we might be able to forgive bad video, but we cannot forgive bad audio, okay? Good video with poor audio is junk unless you can add a completely new audio track in post. And that will be during editing, and I told you how that is done. And you know where to go to find sound and all that. And you know how to do Foley also and dubbing. Because I taught you. Number 4, get close to your subject. Staying closer to your subject ensures better image quality, less noise, and better focus. So try not to stay too far away unless it's necessary, right? Sometimes it's necessary. Number 5, avoid the vertical video syndrome. Okay, number 6, improve your videos with mobile apps. The camera app on your phone could do a good job, but you can go to the Play Store or to the Apple Store and look for other video apps that they have there that are free and could be better than what you have. Okay, so you can look into that also. And finally, number 7, be prepared for the shoot. Before you begin recording, make sure that everything is ready to go. Make sure that everything that you were supposed to do in pre-production is done. You don't start shooting until you have finished your pre-production. When you're using your phone to shoot your film, you'll probably want to avoid things that are too complex. And you can do that among the several available options that you have. Adobe offers Adobe Premiere Clip, which is a free app for iPhone and Android. So you could use that if you want to, and lets you quickly assemble and edit your video clips and images right in your phone or your tablet if you're using that. Another app like Filmic Pro is a professional video app that contains features that are normally found in standalone cameras and allows users to do things that the stock camera app does not allow, like manually changing frame rate, shutter speed, and all that. But Filmic is a fantastic product, but it costs money. It's not expensive, but that one is not free. So you can look into that. As usual, I place videos with additional information and inspiration for you guys, so you can visit these different links that I have placed here to help you guys out with your projects. And in our next lesson, we're going to be talking about how to do the documentary style. We're going to be doing that in 2 days. Any question, guys?
No.